Divorce is tough, but your finances don't have to be. I'm David Cross, and I'm a certified divorce financial analyst practitioner. My job is to help you get a fair financial settlement in your divorce and to guide you to smarter money decisions. Find out how we can help you. U.S. Asset Management. It's your money and your future.
Da sein möchte. Wir werden jetzt gleich den Wasserwerfer in Betrieb nehmen. Wir werden den Wasserstrahl senkrecht in den Himmel stellen und wir schauen mal, wo es denn runterkommt. Dabei wird eine Menge Sprühnebel entstehen. Das heißt, wer jetzt nicht nass werden möchte, dann treten Sie ruhig 20, 30 Meter zurück, weil ich jetzt nicht weiß, in welche Richtung der Wind weht. Und ansonsten dürfen Sie, sobald der Wasserstrahl sich aufgebaut hat, sich auch gerne in den Sprühnebel stellen, sonst wird sich einfach mal kurz abkühlen. Geben Sie uns noch 10, 15 Sekunden. Wir werden jetzt alles vorbereiten und die letzten 5 Sekunden zähle ich dann runter. Also wie gesagt, für alle die nicht nass werden möchten, bitte etwas Abstand, etwas größeren Abstand vom Wasserwerfer nehmen. Auch gerade jetzt in Richtung der Elektronik, also Handys, Smartwatches.
Ну, зачем же им нужны тогда и остановка боевых действий, и мирные переговоры, о которых они все чаще говорят и в которых хотят принять участие? Если Украина, оказывается, занимает новые и новые территории, освобождает, то есть она побеждает. Если все это так и есть на самом деле, и Украина побеждает, то западным лидерам нужно просто подождать, и цель стратегического поражения России будет достигнута вроде как сам. В целом, знаете, хочу сказать, что в целом удары по нашей гражданской инфраструктуре наносятся не только для того, чтобы нанести нам какой-то ущерб, хотя и это, думаю, для противника важно, но и для подпитки информационной кампании. И, может быть, если быть более точным, даже не кампании, а информационной операции, как части противоборства с Россией. Как минимум с целью породить у нас неуверенность в себе, в наших силах, а еще лучше довести до раскола в российском обществе и заставить Россию приостановить хотя бы на какое-то короткое время наступление наших войск на линии боевого соприкосновения и создать условия для начала переговорного процесса на выгодных для себя, то есть для нашего противника условиях. Мы не дадим им такого шанса. Правда, по нескольким направлениям, по нескольким линиям, здесь секрета никакого я не вижу. Есть новые предложения. Но предложение о встрече с главой режима в Киеве, эти предложения известны хорошо. Запрос об остановке боевых действий хотя бы на короткое время по линии боевого соприкосновения тоже не новость. Но есть и новые предложения, но некоторые из них я готов назвать. Ну, например, прекращение ударов вглубь территории с обеих сторон, например. И понятно, почему делается это предложение, потому что наши ответные удары вглубь территории Украины гораздо более мощные, чувствительные и, прямо скажем, разрушительные, приводят к действительно серьезным последствиям для киевского режима.
We really don't know what it might contain or not contain. Iran clearly has a newfound sense of power by virtue of having withstood the military assault that has taken place to date. And I think what many of us spoke about before the war started, I was actually in Florida with former Secretary Mike Pompeo. We did a joint appearance, and I was asked what we thought might occur. And I mentioned at that time, people need to be really careful in how they approach this, because Iran knows and understands and uses asymmetrical warfare as effectively as anybody on the planet. And that is exactly what we've seen play out here.
As far as we're concerned, we're holding up our end of the ceasefire. Violence will be met with violence. As you mentioned, Brian, there were attacks on commercial vessels that the United States of America, directed by the president, responded to, and that will continue to happen, but we hope we don't see that. The president obviously wants to see the peace process play out.
It was Bill's response.
Will somebody give
You all want to work with terrorists? What's going on?
Sir, you've been asked to leave. You need to leave.
I'm done with the mic.
Okay, thanks, sir. Thank you, sir.
Can I present my record?
Sir, you've been asked to leave, please.
I'm not going to leave.
You can give it to Sarah. All right, give him to Sarah and then let's go. You've been asked to leave.
This is a public meeting.
Okay, you can give him to Sarah. You've been asked to leave.
On what grounds?
Right now.
I said on what grounds?
Arrest him.
Can you get my folder, please?
Yep, I will.
Can you get my notepad, please?
Yes, sir, I got it. I'll get your phone too, bud. My phone's back there.
Okay, we just need everybody to sit down. We need to get through the meeting so that everyone can talk.
You want to take that? Sure. Excuse me.
Pirates.
Okay.
I just realized the mic was off. I don't know why the system doesn't reset like that. Sorry. Welcome to the SCIF. Thanks for joining us this morning. What we have here is a gang warfare to attack our elections and to control power of this country. It's the election, stupid. And we're going to talk about that today. I've got Dan Schultz coming in the second segment to discuss all of this and where this is going. But it's my belief, and I've come to this conclusion, that we have gangs vying for control of power in our country. We've got the intelligence community, we've got the Chinese Communist Party, we've got MI6, we've got foreign influence, the Ukrainians, the Iranians, all of them working to control us, and it all stems from the failure of our elections, which takes away the sovereignty of our people, and then you just have our control of us up for grabs to the highest bidder. And I think that's exactly what's going on. And that's why we've talked a lot about conservative media and conservative Inc. And if you look at, and by the way, there's going to be a lot of information dropping. Ana Paulina Luna, the congresswoman from Florida, said this week and last week, and then Dan Scavino seconded it, that there's going to be some influencer disclosures. We know, we have the list actually of all the people who have been taking money from the Chinese Communist Party. And it's very easy to look and see, have they talked in depth about machine election fraud? Or are they saying, I'm not a machine guy? So that is what we're talking about right now. And it's all about control of this country. I want to say hello to the crew in the chat. You're cleared hot. Want to say, check out whatfinger.com. It's a great site for aggregation. Wow, in the cold open, you had Russia, talking about the truth, which is, if they were winning in Donbass, Ukrainian and the European capitals who are fighting this war, why wouldn't they just wait if they're winning and we'll fall apart? But actually the opposite has happened. They're desperate, so they're launching long-range attacks into Moscow. Again, leadership, sovereignty, doing what's right for the people, that stems from the elections. You saw Lurch, John Kerry, admitting he's working with Pompeo, who is former CIA and who's behind all the Ukrainian stuff, who actually is on the board of Flamingo, I think it's called the missile company in Ukraine to launch attacks against Russia. You have Obama, all these old creatures coming out, trying to regain control. We can't let that happen. You saw a video of data center turbulence. I don't know if we'll get to that today, but that's ongoing. But it's unrestricted warfare. And you saw the fentanyl crisis in Philadelphia, zombies walking around. This is literally, zombie land. And they made movies about it. And now it's here. And that all stems from control of the elections because you're not doing anything about it. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. I've got Dan Schultz. We're going to dig into the elections and a lot more. And then I've got a surprise second hour. Ryan Millsap from down in Georgia is going to describe his interactions with Antifa in his mega studio project in Atlanta, in the Atlanta metro area. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Every day, your data is being tracked, collected, and sold, often without you even realizing it. Big tech companies control your devices, your apps, and the information you share. From your messages to your browsing habits, everything is being monitored and stored. Over time, we've traded privacy for convenience, and most people don't even question it. But what if you could take that control back? That's where Mark 37 comes in. Mark 37 provides privacy-focused phones, laptops, and tablets designed to give you full control over your digital life. With secure systems, expert support, and simple tools, they make it easier to step away from constant tracking and data collection. Because privacy isn't just a feature, it's a fundamental choice. It's about protecting your data, your freedom, and your future. Take back control of your digital life with Mark 37.
The pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down and doctors' offices were shut down. And even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
With my 35 years of experience, our team at U.S. Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call U.S. Asset Management today, and let's get to work in your financial future.
All right, welcome back to the SCIF. I want to say that all of this is very expensive. We're focused in on the problem. Please support us. Go to my.cdm.press. That's my.cdm.press. Sign up for our no ad subscriptions, and you get access to all of our massive amount of content. I mean, we are cranking it out, baby. There is so many, dozens of articles a day across the network, videos, shorts, longs, interviews, clips. We're about to institute some new practices to spread it even wider and faster and bigger. And so, by the way, we're using AI on Instagram. We admit that, but it's a very effective tool. We don't have fake reporters, but it's very effective for us to put out short clips, and we can just type in a few sentences and boom, a video is generated and we can get it out and spread the message. So that on Instagram is AI, and we're putting it up on some of the other channels like Rumble and YouTube as well, and on socials. But all of our reporters are real. If you don't want to do the no ad subscription, it's $10 a month or $100 a year. Go to the top menu, cdm.press, support us, make a one-time donation. We're having a fundraising drive right now. It's critically important. We need to raise funds to continue our work. We got trips to Beirut. We got trips to Alaska to look at the hearth, the heart system where they're heating the atmosphere. We're going to go up to Nome and look at where they're going to dig a tunnel over to the Russian Federation for a massive economic boom in the golden age. So all of this reporting takes money. So please support us either with our no ad subscriptions at no ad or my.cdm.press, or just make a donation on the website at cdm.press, top menu. All right. I got the man to talk about our elections. Everything comes from the elections. I think it was Franklin or someone said that this republic can only be held together by godly men and moral men, and we've lost that. And so how do we get it back? I want to know. So Dan Schultz is going to join us. Dan, thank you for coming on. Last minute, I texted you last night. I really appreciate it.
That's okay. No, not a problem. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So you've been the squeaky wheel for years now, and give us an update on this whole process with fixing our elections, please.
Sure. Well, first off, we have 22 states that have a Republican governor and a majority in both or the entire legislature. Nebraska only has one chamber. Mm-hmm. But in those 22 states, and two glaring examples are Florida, and with your governor and state legislature, do-nothing state legislators, and then Texas with Greg Abbott, who won his primary with 81.2% of the vote, which is, how do you do that? But he did. Yeah. And 79 out of 81 of their state legislators with an R after their name in the March 3 primary election won. And I'll get to what's going on there in a minute. But the bottom line is this: and nobody will. All of these election integrity people miss the boat. There's only one way to get rid of the machines, and I talked about it. Let's see, it was February 11, I think. I've got linked at my website. If you scroll down far enough, you'll find a talk I gave, but it was only like 15 minutes. It's not hard to explain. Mm-hmm. The Constitution gives the power over the conduct of the federal elections to the state legislators. And like in Arizona, for example, and Wisconsin, those are two more states. We have here in Wisconsin, where I am, I used to be in Arizona, we have a Republican, and I challenged my state assemblyman about this at our meeting. I'm the vice chair of our county committee now. How did I get the job? Nobody else wanted it, and you got to participate in politics, in party politics. That's my message. That's how we fix things. But those two states as well, they can say for the federal elections, okay, Secretary of State, you run the elections. Here's how it's going to be run for the federal elections. You can't use the machines. Can't do it. It has to be hand-counted paper ballots. You can't have absentee balloting except for confirmed military and invalids. It's got to be a one-day election. You have to go back. You got to have small precincts, no voting centers. You got to vote in your precinct, and then they have to be hand-counted there. And everybody's got to show an ID. So why don't they do that? They've got the power to do it. Well, the reason they don't do it is because they're not afraid of losing their next primary, because when over half of the precinct committeeman slots are vacant, and I've done the research on it, and I asked Grok to confirm it, the likelihood of anything changing unless we first take over the Republican Party is zero. They're just afraid of losing their primary elections. And like I said, in Texas on March 3rd, 79 out of 81 incumbent Republicans in the state legislature who decided to run again won. And in the federal elections thus far, 2 senators have been defeated in their primaries. That's Cornyn and Cassidy. The turnout in Texas, for example, was a whopping 32%, 32.9% turned out to vote Republican.
Yeah.
And only 44% of their precinct chair positions, which you have to run for on the ballot, it's easy to do, had a candidate. So only 44% of their precinct committeeman slots have been filled. And that's going down, not up, despite what I advocate. And so, as I predicted last summer, I said, if there's no change moving forward, and I talked about this on Bannon's War Room once in September, there's no change in the body politic of conservatives. See, conservatives don't run the Republican Party. The rhinos run the party.
No, yeah.
And have you heard anybody from the RNC going, we got to get rid of the machines. We got to get rid of the machines. And Trump doesn't do it either. And the reason I believe he doesn't do it is because all those rhinos around him whispering in his ear are telling him that's not something to run on. That's not something to run on. We can get to that later. And this whole I'm going to do an executive order and save the day. He doesn't have the power to do an executive order with respect to who runs the elections. It's not the federal government. It's the state actors who do so, the state governments. And so these people who are saying there's going to be a magic executive order, why hasn't he done it already? Well, he's going to do it at the last minute, and then it's going to save the day, and they're going to call out the National Guard. It just isn't going to happen. It all goes back to we the people, and we the people aren't doing our job, especially when.
Let me ask you. Let me jump in there about Florida.
Sure,
I was in Miami-Dade Republican Executive Committee for a while, and they wouldn't let me back on, and they kicked off a lot of the people that they didn't like, us troublemakers. And then they started just canceling executive committees and putting new people in, literally dissolving them. And so the RPOF, the Republican Party of Florida, is completely corrupt. It's a machine operation.
Yeah, I know. It's one of the most.
Talking about DeSantis is such a great governor. Well, yeah, he keeps DEI out of the schools, but he's running a fraud across the party. So I think that's a good thing in that it exposed everything, right? But what do you say to people who's like, look, I tried and they kicked me out?
You've got to try again. And you've got to, I've got at my website a communications and collaboration platform. I think there's 1,300 people from Florida that are on it, but they don't use it for what it's designed for. It's very simple. Robert Beadles built it for us. Mm-hmm. It built similar systems. I told him right after I'd been on Bannon's War Room, maybe in 2022,
mm-hmm.
I said, the party, our party, the Republican Party, doesn't give us a communications and collaboration platform when you become a precinct committeeman. The Democrats have it. It's called Vote Builder. There's a Republican version called Our Votes. The same guy built both. He had a non-compete agreement with the Democrats for 5 years. He couldn't sell his software to the Republicans. He had kept the source code. His name's Steve Adler. He lives up in Rhode Island. He went to Reince Priebus. Remember Michael Steele was our RNC chairman, the real conservative Michael Steele. Remember that? And the real conservative Reince Priebus. He's just a grifter, in my opinion.
Yeah.
When Steve Adler presented Our Votes to them and said, as soon as he said, and guess what? Here's the other thing. The precinct committeemen and all the candidates will be able to easily communicate with one another on this platform for getting out the vote, for recruiting more precinct committeemen. They just showed him the door. They said, "Hey, we're not interested.
Yeah.
Bye-bye."
Yeah.
And they're and they go to the RNC's website. There's nothing on there about how to find your local committee. There's nothing on there about why you should become a precinct committeeman. and there's no communications and collaboration platform. But I have all three at my website. It's pretty simple, especially now with AI. You can just ask an AI search engine, how I live in zip code such and such, in this town, in this city, in this state. Where do I have to go to get involved in the Republican Party in this state? Just like that, it'll tell you where to go. I mean, how hard is that, people? It's not hard. It's not hard. It's not mysterious. You have to go to a meeting, and nobody wants to do it. That's the problem. And of course, the RNC hopes you never find this out. So that's about all I ever talk about is recruiting precinct committeemen, because conservatives don't run the Republican Party. Until they do, we're never going to get rid of the machines. The existing office holders are not afraid of us. Here's what I predicted last summer, that 97, and it's based on 50 years, or a 50-year, the preceding 50 years. 97% of House members at the the U.S. House level win their primary if they have an R after their name. 95% of the senators have won over the last 5 decades. Okay. Down at the state legislature level, it's a little bit less. It's between 90 and 95%. And I kept saying this over and over and over, and I kept watching whether or not the precinct committeeman ranks had been growing, and they haven't been. So those people who got kicked out of your party, I know why some of them got kicked out. They weren't paying attention to what the state party was doing with respect to your bylaws. They changed them. And then they said, if you, were a member of the Florida Republican Assembly,
yes,
we can kick you out. Well, what would I have done? I would have told the Florida Republican Assembly, bye, I can't do this anymore. I'd rather be a member of my local county committee than a member of your organization. But let's do this. Let's change your organization because it had Republican in the name. Let's call it the Florida Republicrat. Or just make
or like in
name,
Miami. In Miami, we have the Election Integrity Brigade now.
Okay, great, yeah, excellent. And then instead of creating yet another organization, I talked to the California Republican Assembly about this. They flew me over there and they wanted me to give a talk. And I told them, look at your mission statement. There's nothing in your mission statement about taking over the Republican Party. You want to do all these great things, you've got to take over the Republican Party. That's what you should be focusing on. And then don't have these banquets, don't have these bylaws, don't have all these meetings. Just have a communications network where you have little cells in every county communicating with one another before the meetings. And then you go to the meetings, and if you want to get a resolution passed, now you can get it passed because you know a little bit about Robert's Rules of Order and you know what needs to be done. And, like in some counties, the committee says, if you want to pass a resolution, it has to be in the call 10 days before. Well, jump through that hoop. It can be only 250 words or less. Jump through that hoop. But you got to read and study those bylaws to know all this stuff. And hardly anybody reads and studies the bylaws. But now with AI, you can take all of that gobbledygook, it's 15, 20 pages of mostly wasted space, and say, turn this into something a 7th grader can understand, with all the salient points, and AI will do it just like that.
That's a good point about AI. It really does open up, and that's why they're trying to close down the matrix, I think, because AI will open up a lot of possibilities, and it will discover fraud. It will give you the weapons to fight against this crap. And so we're in a race against time, essentially, but keep going.
We are.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I stopped doing my podcast. I told you after the fact, on December 26th of last year, because I thought to myself, I'm just wasting my time. No, nothing's changed. There's going to be a debacle coming up in 2026. And guess what? The debacle is happening. Only those 2 senators have lost. Only 2 members of the House have lost. What was the turnout in Kentucky 4th Congressional District? I looked it up. It's not hard to look up. Nobody looks up turnout ever. I'm like the only guy who thinks that's important. 34% of Republicans, a closed Republican Party, bothered to vote in that election. The most expensive election. More money was spent in that Republican House primary than ever before, and only 34% turned out. Well, why is that? spending all that money doesn't work. The consultants laugh all the way to the bank. Radio ads, TV ads, it's expensive and they don't work because the voters who the 64% who didn't, 66% who didn't vote, they just don't pay attention to that stuff. But they will pay attention to a guy like me calling them on the phone and saying, hey, there's a really important primary coming up. You call the lower information, lower propensity voters, the ones who haven't voted in a long time. And this is what we did for Frank Schmuck in 2016. I think you know Frank, Air Force Academy grad pilot. And with that great last name, Schmuck, we won in a landslide because we targeted the voters who had voted only 50%, 25%, 0%, or brand new in each precinct, as many as we could. And then all we did was promise a flyer. We're going to put a flyer on your door. We didn't even knock on any doors because it's too time consuming. But that was a personal get out the vote campaign, which the incumbent didn't have. He just did the traditional stuff. And we won in a landslide. See, that's what's not happening. And the reason those things aren't happening is we don't have enough precinct committeemen. In Maricopa County, where I used to live, they're under 50% again. And all of the incumbents in their state legislature, again, like I said, they have a Republican majority in both chambers. What did they do? They issued a proclamation, a resolution to get rid of the machines.
Yeah.
By that afternoon, they did it in the morning. They had a press conference. We're resolving to get rid of the machines. But they didn't have in it. And if you the Secretary of State and the county election officers do not get rid of the machines, it's a felony. That part was missing. So the Secretary of State went to the microphones a few hours later and just laughed at them. I said, so you passed a resolution, big deal.
Well, like in Georgia, we actually had the court say the machines are illegal. And then the legislation said, well, we'll fix them. But then they came out, well, we're not going to fix them before the midterms. We're going to do it after, you know?
Right.
So it's like, it's insane. I mean, it really is. This is about our sovereignty and your children's future.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's no other way around it.
Right. And then, I tell people exactly what they need to do, but nobody wants to do it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go to that one meeting a month to learn how to become an effective, get out the vote person, learn how to get elected into the party officer ranks, because precinct committeemen elect everybody in those officer ranks. The only way to change the RNC is to first get involved in the party where you live, because you elect the electors of the state chair, you elect the electors of the national committeeman and the national committeewoman. But the RNC isn't going to tell you that.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump, unfortunately, doesn't talk about it. And I think the reason he endorsed the precinct strategy over 4 years ago. I think the reason he doesn't talk about it is, again, Wiles and those other two jerks. I can never remember their name. They were the two guys who created the PAC to take out Massey. Well, they laughed all the way to the bank. They raised all sorts of money, and then Gallrein got endorsed by Trump, and Massey got taken out. But the turnout was only 34%. So Gallrein was probably going to win despite all that advertising that they did. And Massey didn't have a ground game, apparently, and neither did Gallrein, because if they had, the turnout would have been much higher than 34%.
Well, same, just had the New York primaries recently. The turnout was abysmal. I mean, way low, right? It
was, right. And I only looked at the headlines, and I know that in that Democratic primary where that weirdo woman won, the turnout was 7% of Democrats.
Yeah.
And it was 35% in the Democratic mayoral primary when Mamdani won that. And then it was a whopping 45% in the general election that Mamdani won. And what did the Republicans do? All the expert Republicans, they told everybody, don't vote for our candidate, Sliwa. No. No. Vote for that weirdo Cuomo. That's what we need to do. Yeah. Let's vote for the guy who lost the primary, now running as an independent, who we always thought was a weirdo. Let's vote for the weirdo. In my opinion, he's a weirdo. I mean, there's something wrong, something off about that guy.
Yeah.
And his brother. in my opinion. I got to say, in my opinion, So anyways, but the bottom line is this: we got plenty of conservatives in this country, but where are they? And I don't know where they are, but they're often all these little groups. See, but one of the graphics at my website is the Unite graphic, where I show all these interest groups. Or it's like Nolan, what's his name, from Hawaii, said it on Bannon's War Room. He says, I do martial arts, and look at my hand right here, and I got really long skin, thin fingers, real weak, But if they come together like the commies do, and they always have a fist for their logo, like the teachers union has a fist, because they all come together and then they're really strong. We got to do that as conservatives, but we're not getting it done. And I fear by the time conservatives wake up and go, gosh, we got to do something, it's going to be too late. I mean, look at what's happened so far.
Persistence is key, right? I mean, if as Americans,
yes,
if we've learned anything from our history, it's you don't give up. War to war, to battle to, I mean, we're in the second inning of this thing, or the third maybe. I mean, so, people think that we're hitting the crescendo, but we got a long fight ahead of us. So just steel yourself for the fight and get involved.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we have to do.
It's
and
like
the only reason I'm
go
ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, it's like building the cathedral in Milan. I mean, it took 600 years. Right?
Yeah.
One stone at a time. So
yes,
that's what has to happen for our children's future. It's not for, stop the narcissism of this generation and get out and work for the youngsters.
Right. And the only reason I'm doing my podcast again is like in February or thereabouts. I told somebody who I love dearly, one of my children, and she said, Dad, I think you should be doing them. And so I said, okay, because the only reason I do this is because I have kids. If I didn't have any kids, I'd be skiing, I'd be water skiing, I'd be doing all sorts of stuff. Because I've had a good life and really bad times are coming. But there's that quote by Tom Paine, which I used, I think, on my Friday podcast in a graphic. And it goes something like this. It was in The Crisis, which he wrote about, if bad times are going to come, let them come in my time.
Yes.
So that I can save my children.
Exactly.
And,
I mean,
and that's what we have to do. Yeah.
So true. So well put. What else, Dan? What else? Anything else you need to get out?
Well, let's see here. I wrote down some notes here. I think I hit all the things I wanted to say. The highlights are, go to the RNC's website. There's nothing there about getting involved in the party. There is, they just started MAGA Majority Force. That's supposed to be like, Trump Force 47.com was the prior one from 2020, where they just asked people, can you make, I think it was 12 or 13 or 15 phone calls, and they used I can't remember the name of the software, but it would just present on your phone a number to call, and then we were calling Wisconsin voters who it's hard in the states where you don't have you can't register with a party like Wisconsin. It's hard to figure out whether the voter is a Republican or not. So we were just calling the ones that they thought were Republicans and hadn't been voting regularly. And you just made phone calls to them. I made like 500 phone calls. And we did carry, and I would do it while I was fishing with an earbud in. I'm casting, and it's just automatically telling me on screen, like, the name of the person. And, hey, Joe, it's Dan Schultz from Buffalo County. I'm calling you to make sure you vote. I didn't have, even when I did talk to a Democrat, none of them were nasty. I mean, none of them. They all appreciated that I called, but we don't have enough people doing that. No, well, now they've just started MAGA MAGA Majority Force. And Wednesday night. Well, I'll back up. Why didn't they start this last summer?
Yeah.
Here's why. Here it is. They're doing it for the midterms. Okay. The general election. So all the rhinos are going to win. Almost all of them. Uniparty rhino. Look at what our Congress is doing. Nothing. They won't pass the Save America Act. They won't do anything that Trump wants done. They're on recess all the time. They won't approve his appointees. So you got a rhino up against a Democrat uniparty person. What difference does it make which one wins? It's still going to be uniparty. And if we come out of these, and it looks like it's going to happen, because we had 27 state federal primaries thus far. And down at the state legislature level, 96% plus have won. And then in the federal elections, only 2 House members have lost. I don't know what that percentage is. I don't know how many have run thus far, Republicans, out of the 218 or whatever we have. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. And of the 11 incumbent Republican senators, only 2 have lost. Cornyn, and again, in Cornyn's case, Cornyn and Paxton, turnout 32.9%. That also was the most expensive Senate Republican primary renomination race in U.S. history, and the turnout of Republicans was 33%. Well, why is that? Well, only 44% of the precinct chair positions are open, and they're the people who are supposed to help get out the vote. Well, when over half of the slots are vacant, you're not going to do a very good job on average, all things considered. And they didn't do a very good job.
When I was on the Miami-Dade rec, I mean, it was all about centralizing power. They didn't care about the precinct captains. They just, it's all about, we'll make the decisions here. You do what we want, or we're getting rid of it. So, and by the way, they're supporting, which you're not supposed to do in many jurisdictions, they're supporting primary candidates they want in the GOP primary, giving them party money, which is supposed to not happen. And also there's no lack of proof that the election machines are nefarious at this point. There's no more debate. I mean, there's so much out there. So they're all in on it. Yeah, they're all in on it. Wow.
And there's only one way to change it. We, the people, are going to get it done. We're going to get, and with the technology that we have, we should all know every conservative. We could all know every conservative in our voting precinct, and then communicate every day online with them. With that software that Beatles built for us, we could do it, but nobody's doing it. You can set up a chat room of any type, anytime. You can do video calls on it now for free. Last night I had a video call with my 3 kids for free on this platform. It's not on big tech. Nobody's recording it. It's all encrypted. Nobody's snooping. And that's there for free for anybody to use. Like you could have your county committee meeting. It's very scalable. You can have 500 people on it or more if you want. You could have, but what we got to do is we got to get all of the conservatives who get this, who go into the party. Even if you've been thrown out, then form your network, rename it something where they can't ding you for that, and then go back into the party the first opportunity that you have, and do your own.
Find somebody else who's not known to them to run and advise them how to. I mean, there's a lot of sneaky ways to get back in. Right? Exactly.
Yeah. And see, it's like a catch-22. Why don't good conservatives run for office? Well, I think the reason a lot of them don't is if they're smart, they go and look at the jurisdiction that they're in, and then they look at who's in the party. And if they're very conservative and it's run by rhinos, and most of the precinct committeemen are rhinos, they're going to think, they're not going to help me in the primary. Yeah. They're going to help the incumbent rhino. And that's why we've got to do our best to populate the local committees. And then it's by majority vote rule. When you get a majority of conservatives and you all stick together, you can elect everybody in the party ranks locally, and then you can vote as a block for a good chair, state chair, and national committeeman and national committeewoman. That's the only way we can change the RNC and the state committees and down to the county level. We got to get more conservatives into the ranks. And God bless Trump for endorsing the precinct committeeman strategy, but I think the reason he doesn't talk about it at his rallies, and he never did. I sent him scripts, like, okay, you're in South Carolina. This is the terminology to use. I wrote up a little, like 50 words maybe about it. never got inserted into his teleprompter. And I think it's because they're telling him, President Trump, if you take over the Republican Party and fill it up with conservatives down at the local level, per this precinct committeeman strategy, then when you go to the big donors will say to you, well, we don't need to give you any money. You've got a ground game already. Yeah. And I think they've done that to him. And they've told him that. And he's kind of driven by money. It's kind of like what gets him, motivated. And he's probably thinking, that makes sense. So I better not do that. If they want to do it, let them do it. Right.
You got to have some preparation you got to get your group together. You got to formulate a plan. You got to do some intelligence work. You got to have people go in and listen, and you got to know who's who and who's on your side and who's not. And then you got to develop a plan, because
exactly what I did when I moved here back to Buffalo County. I grew up here, but most of the people in the party were brand new people. I didn't know who they were. And that's what I did. I went to the meetings. I just listened. I laid low. I didn't tell them I was Dan Schultz, precinct strategy guy or anything. I just laid low. What do you need me to do? You need me to go to walk in a parade? Be a poll observer? Yes, I'm going to do that. And I couldn't even vote for a year because our bylaws, again, because you can't vet people very well if you don't have you don't check a box. I'm a Republican voter, so I can vote in a closed Republican primary. We have open primaries here. So they had passed something which they were allowed to do with the local bylaws. Nobody can vote for a year because in the past they had some problems with Democrats trying to infiltrate their ranks, but they were had been voting. They figured out that they were Democrats, and then eventually those Democrats left. So it took me a year to even vote as an executive member whenever there was a vote on something. I've been able to get now resolutions passed unanimously. That took me about 5 months, though, because some of the people worked for the county and they were afraid to vote. And I said, well, we'll work through that. We'll have a secret vote, a secret ballot. And so nobody will know whether you voted or not. And then when we finally got it passed, they didn't vote. And they're good, decent people, but they're afraid they're going to lose their job, maybe politically, because they work for the county government.
Well, what they're doing in Miami, and Kevin Cooper runs that group now, he's just a plant, but they are going to the young Republicans, putting their own people in the young Republicans, and then saying, we got these new young Republicans and they're just rhinos, or they're ignorant and they don't know, not ignorant, that's the wrong word. They're naive. They don't know what's going on. And so they buy them dinners and send them and give them fancy titles and say, you're going to be on the committee and just do what we say. And they stack the committee. So you have to do the same thing. You have to think asymmetric warfare here. You got to put your own people in the young Republicans. Find 20 people who are all on the same team, and then infiltrate and get in there. And because you're not going to go in there and say, I'm Todd Wood or Dan Schultz. They're just not even going to let you in the door. Like in Miami, what they did is we had just a vote to tell us how many people were on the committee. They wouldn't even tell us who's on the committee. And so we just wanted to know what seats were open. And they literally walked out of the room and said, we're not going to have a vote because we no longer have a quorum. I mean, just absolute tyranny, absolute criminal behavior. And so you got to be smart. That's my point. Yeah. So back in Arizona, there was an offshoot. The real conservatives who were in the college Republicans formed another group and got an advisor. College Republicans United. I never went and spoke to the college Republicans. Why bother? They were all McCain acolytes. I went and talked to the California Republicans United. And when I started talking about the precinct strategy and what a precinct committeeman was, here's a college student, made it through high school, raises his hand. He goes, what's a precinct committeeman? Yeah. And that's the problem. Our public schools, the long march through the institutions by the commies, they did their best to get basic American civics out of the curriculum. And they did a good job. And so unless you're teaching your kids yourself about civics,
and civic duty and civic responsibility. They weren't getting it in school, just like my kids were not getting it. And I was lucky then. Before I left Arizona, I worked for 2 years at the Department of Education, and the superintendent of public instruction, she's elected, was a good conservative, and we kind of worked behind the scenes to insert into the standards at the State Board of Education. She was 1 out of 11 on the board. She chaired it, but the governor got to appoint everybody, and of course Ducey had selected a whole bunch of rhinos and Democrats, to be fair. That's the other problem with Republicans. Nobody has any, especially the rhinos. No spine. Nobody fights. Like what happened in Indiana recently. It came time for redistricting. What did they do? Well, they let the Democrats write the boundaries with them. They had the power to do just the opposite. They didn't do it because it wasn't like, well, what would people say about us? They might call us conservatives. They might call us conservatives. Oh. We don't have people with spine getting into politics. And the reason, again, it's that catch-22. Well, they won't go into politics if they see that we, the people, aren't going into politics to help get them elected. And the best way to do that is
also a generational thing. And, I'm right on the edge of being a boomer, but I consider myself Gen X because, I don't think I'm a boomer. But that the generation who had everything given to them, I went to a meeting in Savannah with the young Republicans, and there's several aggressive, young, smart guys running the meeting. And all the old guys, the old women got up and said, "You can't be mean to them." And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? You're not being mean. You're just confronting them and arguing and like saying, no, this is not what you're going to do. So it really is a shocking generational thing. And maybe just the generations have to move on because the younger generations are angry,
Yes.
Because they're getting the shaft. So
Absolutely they are. And we've all got to become recruiting machines. So my daughter has again become a precinct committee woman. And she did it because in her precinct, there were 11 slots. There had been 2 that there was a couple, they dropped out. And so she ran as a write-in. She wins automatically as a result. My 2 sons, I'm trying to get them to do it too, but I'm, and they were in the past, but that was when dear old dad, voted their proxies all the time because they were in college and I didn't want them doing stuff that detracted from their studies. Except when it came time to get out the vote, then they did make those phone calls I mentioned and help drop flyers off at houses. It's not a heavy lift. This stuff, this precinct committeeman stuff is, it's grunt work. It's 7th grader stuff, but nobody wants to do it. Everybody's too high and mighty thinking you can just, have that saying, don't just be a donor to the party. You got to become an owner of it. You can't write a check to save the republic. You got to get involved, and I sound like a broken record, but that's what it takes. You just got to, harangue people. You got to get off your rear end, and it's not a heavy lift. 3 hours a month to go to a meeting. It's fun, and if you like people or like to observe people, I don't like people, but I do like to. But
my wife says that all the time. You hate people. I'm like, because I just want things to get done,
Exactly. But I do like to observe them and then try to recruit them to my way of thinking.
Yeah.
Boy, if you like to do that kind of stuff, there's no better place to do it than a county Republican monthly meeting.
All right. The website is precinctstrategy.com. Dan, thanks. I want to have you back as we roll into the midterms. Thanks for coming on.
Okay. Yeah, you bet. Thanks.
Right,
Take care. Bye-bye.
Every day, your data is being tracked, collected, and sold, often without you even realizing it. Big tech companies control your devices, your apps, and the information you share. From your messages to your browsing habits, everything is being monitored and stored. Over time, we've traded privacy for convenience, and most people don't even question it. But what if you could take that control back? That's where Mark 37 comes in. Mark 37 provides privacy-focused phones, laptops, and tablets designed to give you full control over your digital life. With secure systems, expert support, and simple tools, they make it easier to step away from constant tracking and data collection. Because privacy isn't just a feature, it's a fundamental choice. It's about protecting your data, your freedom, and your future. Take back control of your digital life with Mark 37.
A warm welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embraer team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here. Going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Avello. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Avello, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Avello is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
Couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, and our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I want to give a shout out to the wellness company. That's twc.health/CDM. Use promo code CDM. You get 10% off. That's twc.health/CDM, promo code CDM. Look, go to the wellness company. Spend some time on the website. I highly recommend it. Look at the emergency medical kits. I use mine all the time when I travel, and I travel a lot. The contagion kits, just look at all they have as far as how you can protect your family. It's really important that as the next pandemic comes, you're prepared. Look at their nutraceuticals, look at the online doctor visits, the memberships, the weight loss, the parasite cleanses, the regenerate for your old bones like me. So check it out. We really highly recommend. All right. We've had Ryan Millsap on before. He ran for Congress down in the great state of Georgia, and he has a story that I want to tell because this kind of relates to our elections where we're seeing all this brown shirt activity, and I want to bring him in and talk about that now. Ryan, thanks for coming on, my friend.
Hey, my pleasure. Glad to be here.
So you have a story which I mentioned. You had a group didn't like what you were doing. Can you relate that to us as to what you experienced?
Yeah, I've been fighting Antifa in Atlanta for 5.5, 6 years now. Mm-hmm. I completed a land exchange with DeKalb County in 2021, and that land exchange took 3 years before that. So it really started in 2018, and for 3 years, all the adults in the room worked together to have me give DeKalb County 56 acres, mm-hmm. and DeKalb County in exchange gave me 40 acres. Now, my 56 acres sat next to a bunch of homes in a community, a neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And the 40 acres they have was part of a park, but it was a park that was surrounded by industrial uses. Mm-hmm. And it was a weird park, had a weird entrance. Everybody had to drive there. Nobody could walk there really. And so I was getting ready to take my 56 acres and expand my movie studio.
Mm-hmm.
And a local planner approached me and said, the 56 acres you have would be better as access to the park, the greater park that expanded both ways, in the direction of my piece of land. And the piece of land the county has would be better for what you want to do, which is expand your studio. It'd be better to have that all down in the industrial area. Would you be open to doing a land exchange with the county? I said, well, how long do you think that would take? And he said, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months. I said, for 3 or 4 months, I'd be willing to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, that process drug into 3 years, and so, but the reason it was a death, death by 1,000 cuts, in the sense that every time you'd think it was going to be done, everybody'd say, well, I think it'll get done next quarter. So it was death by 90-day cuts.
Mm-hmm.
And then next thing you know, it's easy for 12 quarters to string together in government time.
Yeah.
So by the time that got done, a couple things had taken place. One, I had kind of started to doubt it was ever going to happen. And so I started making alternative plans. And so I secured another 180 acres behind my studio for expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 years is a long time in business timeline.
Yeah.
And I started working on selling my studio. We had COVID in the middle of that. And so by, I think it was like February 2021, the land exchange actually happened. And I was also under contract to sell my studio, which happened then in April of 2021. So 2 months later. So
you got no benefit of that whatsoever.
No, but it was already kind of like in the works. And I'm like, yeah, let's just, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Now, I tried to have that piece of land included in my sale, but the guys who I was selling to basically refused to pay me a fair price for it. And so I ended up selling my studio and having this piece of land. Well, 2 months after the land exchange was completed and, DeKalb County got the 56, I got the 40, Antifa sued me. Now, Antifa is a coordinated network across the country and the world. But in 2021, very few people believe that.
Yeah.
And so if I told you in 2021 that Antifa sued me, the majority of Democrats, and actually a lot of Democrats today, their first response would be, well, Antifa's not real. Antifa's not a thing. Who actually sued you? And I'd list off a series of nonprofit organizations that actually sued me and some individuals. But all of those organizations and all of those individuals are tied in to the Antifa network. Now, at the same time, Antifa was protesting the police training facility, which was directly next door to my piece of land. Both of my pieces of land. The piece of land I exchanged was just north of the piece of land I received. But the piece of land I received was an entrance, a parking lot, basically, to a greater park. And that greater park was adjacent to the police training facility known as Cop City.
This was a big deal down it. It was all over the news.
Big deal. Big deal. Big deal. Now, the city of Atlanta had this 300-acre piece that they wanted to turn into a police training facility. Now, the land they owned was not in the city of Atlanta. It was in DeKalb County. So it was about 2-3 miles away from the border of Atlanta. But because the city of Atlanta owned it, they could send their own police force to protect their own land. And they did that when Antifa started to try to cause problems for them. Now, I'm right next door and I'm the entry gate for Antifa into this land. The city of Atlanta doesn't send police to protect my land. I'm at the mercy of DeKalb County. So Antifa moves on my land and I call the police and tell them, hey, I've got like 50, 60 people trespassing on my land. I think they might be living there. Right. And so DeKalb sends out police officers. They send out like 7 police cars. And I go meet them out there. And as we approach the land, like 50 Antifas come walking out of the forest with masks on, not all masked, but mostly masked. And they're holding rocks and beer bottles and whatever the line is that they've studied that is not escalation so far that the police engage in real violent activity.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I don't know. I don't know all these rules, but
No, they're experts at it. Yeah.
Experts at it.
Was there
So
any, let me ask you, was there any squatting issues there?
Oh yeah.
Play?
No, no.
Okay.
And this is where it's getting, so these guys had basically moved on my land.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called the cops. The cops come out. I think, when these guys come out in masks and have rocks and beer bottles, I think, oh man, this is going to get good. These Antifas are really going to get their butts kicked by these cops and got taught a lesson. But as the Antifas came out, the police just backed up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, where are you guys going? And they said, well, we've been told we can't escalate the situation. Coordinated.
Yeah. Wow.
And it turns out that inside of DeKalb County, there's layers of Antifas, working at the government at various levels. And at the very, very top, there's the commissioners, and there are commissioners that are tied into Antifa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Far leftist, operating under the auspices of environmentalism and all sorts of things. But really, they're just Antifa sympathizers. It's Antifa coordinators. They talk to Antifa. They coordinate with Antifa. And so anyway, so the police back off, and I have to sit there and watch as Antifa burns my equipment that's sitting on my land with the cops standing there, and I'm just like dumbfounded by this reality. So the next day I go and I meet with DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurman, who is a recent governor's candidate from the Democratic side in the state of Georgia. He lost to Keisha Lance Bottoms, but he was trying to be the governor of Georgia. But I go meet with Michael and I say, Michael, you got to get these people off my land. Like, they are trespassers, they are vandals, and they've got to go. And he said, there's nothing I can do. I said, what are you talking about? Like, you need to go do this. He said, well, I'm not going to have blood on my hands. I won't escalate this situation to violence. And I said, Michael, you are the law enforcement.
Yes.
Like, I don't think you really have this as a discretionary option. Like, this is your job, is to enforce the laws. And he says, I'm not going to have blood on my hands on this. Well, Antifa subsequently occupies my land for 18 months. 18 months, I can't set foot on my land. I can't do anything about it. I mean, Thurman had actually said to me, if you go on the land, you're escalating the situation, and now you have blood on your hands.
Jeez.
I'm like, what has the world come to? Because I could go clear that land in 15 minutes with one buddy and 2 ARs. Like it might, there might be violence, but our forefathers would have never stood around and waited for this kind of thing. So anyway, after 18 months, Governor Kemp and Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones worked to get the state troopers, the Georgia state troopers, finally went in and cleared my land.
Wow.
And now, along the way, you have to understand, Antifa's trying to intimidate me online, my wife online. They came to our house. They spray painted my house. They, they had hit piece articles written against me by leftist journalists, calling me a racist anti-Semite. Anything they could do to try to screw up my reputation, screw up my business life, hurt me in any way possible. And so the lawsuits made my land undevelopable, right? They successfully polluted the title of my land. Even though they lost in everything that they did, they would win by losing slowly.
Sure.
And then even the problem is the courts don't really understand all of these tactics. And so even when the courts were ruling in my favor, they didn't understand that Antifa didn't care if it ruled in my favor, as long as they could pollute my title, and make it questionable about whether or not I could develop, which then even though I'm winning, I'm losing. And so that's all going on. So after 18 months, they go in and the Georgia state troopers clear my land in an afternoon, and I'm thrilled. And so I call my construction guys and I say, listen, Antifa's finally off my land. I need you out there tomorrow because I need you to destroy all of their makeshift civilization, all of their forts, all of their tree houses, all of their paths they've created. Anything that looks like makeshift civilization, I need you to destroy it and make this place uninhabitable.
Yeah.
And my guys go out there and they do an amazing job of that. And I'm thinking, this is great. 3 days later, I get $100,000 in fines from DeKalb County for tree removal without a permit.
Wow.
Okay, like this is
On
how
your own land. Yeah.
of my own land, and after they have done nothing about the terrorist vandal occupiers for 18 months, but they know I'm a law-abiding citizen, and so they can just start issuing me permit fines.
So it's they're involved. They're in on it.
It's layers, right? Again, like they're infiltrated people at all layers of government who have ties to Antifa and coordinated attack with Antifa, trying to coordinate how to attacking Antifa's enemies, and this really only happens in Democratic run communities, but the Democrats and Antifa are hand in glove.
Brown shirts, yeah,
they are the brown shirts. So
wow,
it's really exciting actually to see Texas prosecuting and convicting these people. In our instance, when the state troopers went in, they arrested 65 people for domestic terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
Not one of those people has been prosecuted yet because all of their cases are pending in Fulton County, which is run by Democrats.
Yeah, wow.
And so all of us
terrorist is the operative word there. I mean,
right. And Chris Carr, our Attorney General Chris Carr, thankfully did charge them with domestic terrorism, but charges don't mean anything. You need convictions.
Sure. Wow.
So I'm set to testify in all 65 of those cases. A couple years ago, it was getting close. Like it looked like I was going to go to trial. And like the day before I was supposed to testify, everything got pushed, all because of, shenanigans inside of government bureaucracies in DeKalb and Fulton County.
Wow. Amazing. Well, thanks for telling us that story. Anything else you want to get out today?
No, I think the bottom line is we need to destroy Antifa in this country. We need to be relentless with them. We need to be ruthless about prosecuting them in the courts. But what that process reveals is how broken our court system is, how infiltrated our court system is. We have lost all the major bureaucracies in this country. We've lost education. We've lost the courts. We've lost the governments. We have to take all that stuff back if we have any hope of avoiding a Second Amendment reset, right? Which is what feels like is building. Like the only way that we can take back the bureaucracies is to actually like have a civil war, which I hate to say that out loud as but it just feels like that's where things are going if we don't find some very serious ways to reset our bureaucracies because they've been infiltrated, taken over, and we're being abused from the inside out by just the abuse of power.
Well, that's what the show is about today. Is the elections are obviously fraudulent all over the country. So that's where it all starts. It's sovereignty by the people or not. So,
yes.
Anyway, Ryan, thank you very much, my friend.
My pleasure.
All right, take care. Bye.
Yep, see you.
First time ever, we're bringing you My Pillow mattresses and mattress toppers for as low as $99.98. Remember, sleep's all about temperature and pressure points. Whatever sleep needs you have, we have the right technology for you. Like our My Pillow mattress topper, our queen size has over 10,000 individual comfort supports to help relieve your pressure points. And how about our 3-inch Hybrid Plus mattress topper? It's infused with copper and silver to help your body get the restorative sleep it needs. And our My Pillow and Case Coil mattresses, I personally helped develop these mattresses to make sure they have everything needed to give us great sleep. Plus, they're made right here in the USA, and they ship right to your front door absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to get MyPillow mattresses and toppers for as low as $99.98 and free shipping.
I'm watching my friends gain more and more weight, and then eventually I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke. I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's like, you had a stroke? You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You're not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another, and I went, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition-specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mixed it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition. And sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this, you take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back. Cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
Put silver wings on my son's chest. Make him one of America's best. He'll be a man. He'll test one day. Have him win the Green Beret.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Regarding elections, which is the top of the topic of the show today, the Georgia show we had yesterday and last Wednesday have some very good information. You can find it on YouTube or on our Rumble channels or on GeorgiaRecord.com or on CDM.press under the CDTV channel, or tab at the top. But there are a lot of good information. Bill Quinn went to the fraud conference and brought back a lot of good stuff. So you can check that out. There's no lack of proof as to the fact that our elections are stolen. So I want to just highlight, we're in the middle of a fundraising drive. I want to highlight this, which is an AI video I made on that. So here we go.
Press. This is a story about the news they don't want you to read. Last week, we published a story national outlets had and chose not to run. Konstantinivka falls to Russian forces. We published it anyway. That's what we do. CDM exists for one reason: to report what's true, even when it's inconvenient. No corporate parent, no advertiser calling to ask us to soften the story. No political committee funding our coverage, just journalists and readers like you. We're launching our reader support drive today. If our reporting has ever informed your view or given you facts you couldn't find elsewhere, will you consider standing with us? Go to cdm.press and check the top menu and find Support Us. Donate now. Every dollar goes directly to reporting. Thank you for your support.
So there's that. But let's talk about some stories. And by the way, we're so busy. We're trying to get everything done. And as we're getting ready for these shows, I forgot to do the show brief, the mission brief. So I'm your host, Todd Wood. Today is the 29th of June. Here's your mission brief. The next war between Turkey and Israel in the Middle East. I want to discuss that here in a second. Fightertown, Alaska. We're going to be up in Alaska soon to report on a lot of different things. There's a lot happening up there you need to be aware of. What is DeFlock? That's on the GeorgiaRecord.com. I'll discuss that in a second. John Ossoff wants ID, but not to vote, but just to get into his events. Again, on the Georgia Record. And what's next for your iPhone? So let's talk about a few of these stories. This one is on CDM. There is a war coming between between Israel and Turkey in the Middle East. The Israeli officials are saying this is the next conflict. We need to be ready. Turkey's talking about confronting Israel and Israeli genocide in Gaza. Israel responded by declaring the Armenian genocide 100 years ago as a thing. And so the rhetoric is ramping up, and Israel even bombed targets in Syria when the Assad regime fell so that they wouldn't become under the control of Turkish forces. So this is a big deal. And again, I've got something else I want to show you here on that we put out this morning.
Todd Wood, the CEO of CDM.press. Here at the network, we are very good at spotting global trends. And right now, we see a new war brewing in the Middle East, this time between the Jewish state of Israel and the nation of Turkey. Both sides are posturing for conflict. Turkey, the old Ottoman Empire, since being led by Recep Erdogan, has become moved in the direction of a sultanate. Turkey has made a rigorous effort to build power via its media operations, and especially military capability, including a robust military-industrial capacity. Israel sees this, of course, and Jerusalem wants to be the regional hegemon. So conflict is brewing. Both sides are openly talking about war. Turkey threatens to confront what it says is Israel's genocide in Gaza and regional aspirations, and Israeli officials openly talk about how the next war would be with Turkey. The bottom line is the United States cannot be involved in this coming conflict. America first, please.
So that's our opinion. And again, we're putting a lot of these AI videos on Instagram. If you haven't followed us there, go to Instagram, follow us, CDM. Also on YouTube, subscribe there. Even if you don't watch us there, we need those numbers to grow. And on our Rumble channel, CDM1, CDM_press on X. I'm at Real L Todd Wood on X. So please follow us. Let's talk about some additional stories here. Let me get to that. Okay, Fightertown, Alaska. We're going to be up in Alaska soon reporting on the connections to Russia, Providencia on the Bering Strait, and also some of the history in Alaska, but also the military presence. I used to fly out to all the forward operating bases for the fighters to protect the air defense identification zone for Alaska back in the day, back in the 80s, to date myself. So it's an important area. We know a lot about it, and we're going to try to bring that information to you. So Fightertown, USA, you can find this story on armedforces.press. New map, a new system. We've talked a lot about the flock cameras. This is on georgiarecord.com. Flock safety is in Georgia, and they are installing these cameras everywhere to surveil you and to provide, really track your movements. They say they're not doing that, but there's been proof that they are tracking certain people in certain locations and using the technology for what it's not supposed to be for. So there's a new app called DeFlock where you can have, if you want to go somewhere, you can go around all the cameras and it develops the route for you. So this is an important story. And another one we're going to stay on top of. We've reported a lot on this. Also on the Manhattan.press, which is our business channel, here are the new features for the new iPhones coming up. We talk a lot about mark37.com/CDM. But those of you who are on the iPhone, these are the new, making it more and more convenient so you can't get rid of it. But you really need to protect your privacy. And then the last story, John Ossoff had a rally with Keisha Lance Bottoms in Georgia. This is on the georgiarecord.com. And guess what? He's against voter ID, but you had to show an ID to get into his event. Just fascinating and hilarious hypocrisy. All right, my friends, that's all I have today. Oh, one more thing. Gold, precious metals. The markets are really volatile. They're really, nobody really knows where things are going to go. So go to cdmmetals.com, that's cdmmetals.com, and talk to Advisor Metals if you have assets you want to protect, even in your IRA. It's very easy to do with precious metals. You own the metals. You can go visit them. I had a reader call me and say, I talked to the team at Advisor Metals, and I literally went to my IRA custodian and visited my gold. So you can do that. So go to cdmmetals.com, fill out the form, and they will get in contact with you, and you can get your free precious metals investing guide from them. Talk to Ira Bashatsky and the team, or call them direct, but just tell them CDM sent you. That's really important. But you really need, you have cash assets or whatever it is. Where's my silver round? I have a silver round here. So check it out, cdmmetals.com. Okay, that's all for today. We'll be back tomorrow with the SCIF. Big show coming tomorrow. I've got Pastor Jake Dell to talk about reclaiming the church, which is highly, highly, highly important. And I have somebody else on the show tomorrow. Let me see who I have. 1 second. It always changes overnight, but let me just tell you who it is tomorrow on the SCIF, 10 to noon, Monday through Friday on the SCIF. Oh, big one tomorrow, Roger Stone in the second hour. So much going on with Nixon, with J.D. Vance, and Stone has the insight. So we're fortunate to have that relationship. All right, we'll be back. Take care. See you tomorrow.